I'm going to bring up Mr. Joe Gasper. You've met Joe already today, so I don't need a big intro for Joe. All you guys know Joe, right? Joe heads up our CAD integration. He heads up PublishWave. He's part of the product management team. He's just going to do a quick introduction for those of you who aren't intimately familiar with PublishWave. He's going to help you understand more about it. It's kind of a setup for the next presentation where PublishWave's heavily in use. Joe?
Thank you, Scott. Well, we're going to enter We're going to enter the danger zone right away because I've decided I'm going to ad-lib something. So those of you that don't know me, you soon will have an opinion about me. So here we go. So I usually key off something that happened earlier in the day, and we had this whole thing about family. And you know, some families are great. And there's good and there's bad news to every family. The good news is, as family, with Synergis, we love you all. We want to help you, we will be there for you, and we will do our best to make you successful. The bad news is that every family has a black sheep. That black sheep sometimes is the relative who sits in the corner who says stupid things. Or that relative that says politically incorrect things. Or maybe makes bodily noises that he really shouldn't. Or possibly even teaches your grandchildren hand gestures that they probably shouldn't learn at their age. Well, that person usually has a name, and it's Uncle Joe. And that is me, from a Synergis standpoint. So that's where I wanted to start. My intention today is to bring you through a little bit about PublishWave to set the stage for the next customer case study. The customer cases are always the highest rated event or session that we do in these events. People love them. And they really do teach us all. They not only teach you and educate you, but they educate us. Because back in the office, most of the time, when my phone rings, it's not someone calling up to say how great the software is. And it usually ends up with me doing some other tasks after that. But those case studies are great in that they help us realize that the products we produce are doing well. So PublishWave is one of the products. I am a product manager at Synergis, one of several. And my expertises are PublishWave as well as the CAD integrations. And also I dabble a little bit in the desktop client. But what I'd like to do is prepare you to hear a customer story where PublishWave is an integral part of that business process. Many here, although I was pleasantly surprised to see how many hands went up, they didn't go up high enough, but about using PublishWave today. But many of you have never seen it, maybe even haven't heard about it. So I want to give you a brief PublishWave primer of sorts. So what is PublishWave? Well, as you can read, I'm not going to read that. PublishWave it's been called a jack of many trades, a toolkit, an ability or an add-on that adds publishing and printing capability and extends and enhances your ability to use Adept, but also to use Adept to provide information inside Adept or outside of Adept, so that those users who consume documents and information can get to that information. Well, let's review how PublishWave works in the most general sense. PublishWave is engaged to print or publish via a job request form. This is one of the ways. This happens, in this case, shown here, the job request form used when the Adept user selects one or more documents in the desktop client and manually submits them to PublishWave. So as you can see, the user specifies the desired output, a few parameters about controlling how the output looks, and the target output location if you're doing publishing. It also would be used for printing. The other way to have jobs submitted to PublishWave can be you configure PublishWave to automatically engage what we call on command. So when a document reaches an Adept in status, the document can be automatically sent to PublishWave for processing. Again, the parameters, which control how the document looks, are preset by the administrator. So the user checking in or final approving a document, they don't even know this is happening. All they know is that in the end, that the correct process is being followed, and a PDF or a TIFF or whatever you're set up to configure to produce is completed. So I'm going to go through 3 use cases. So this is kind of the primer part of this. The first case is about just creating a PDF file. So on the PublishWave side of things, let's watch what happens when a job submission, which today is only submitted from the desktop client. Here, we're looking at the PublishWave server application. So we call it the PublishWave server, but it's really the application acts as a server. It runs on a workstation class machine because it has to use SOLIDWORKS or Inventor or AutoCAD. And those applications generally are not supported on a server OS. So we'll use the term PublishWave server, but it mainly refers to the application. We have the PublishWave server running in the top right corner of the screen. At the top left is what we would consider the PublishWave input folder. This is the folder where the job submissions will show up. PublishWave server monitors this folder, and when a job shows up, it processes it. So in the lower left corner is the output folder. In this case, this is the folder where the published output will be deposited. So this is a little video here. So I'll click it, we'll get it started. So you'll see in the upper left corner, oh, there's a folder, it just showed up. Well, that's the input job coming into PublishWave. The server then will monitor that on a time basis that you set. It sees the job, it opens that up, understands, gets all the information it needs, and subsequently will create a PDF in the output folder. This is the most simple case where that's all the customer or the user needed to do was let's use PublishWave to create PDFs. The PDF can then be consumed by some other process, such as sucked into SharePoint or put into an ERP system, or even just made available. This folder, this output folder, sometimes is just shared to all the non-Adept users. So they can just go in there and find it by file name, the PDF, and open it up. Now let's take this a step further. This is case 2. Suppose that the desire is not only to produce a PDF, but to have that PDF sucked back into Adept. Here, the job submission is processed by PublishWave, as we'll see in a moment. The PDF is created and deposited in the output folder where another component of PublishWave, and we call it Publish to Adept, or P2A for short. Publish to Adept is configured to watch this output folder. And that is the middle folder here in this screen. So we're going to activate this video. So the output, the job will come into the input folder. PublishWave will process that job. And as part of the parameters for that job, it was designated, no, don't put it in that output folder, put it in this output folder, and prepare the job for Publish to Adept. P2A is monitoring this folder in the middle, sees the PDF and the P2A file, and processes it. The P2A file, the extension P2A, contains the information needed for Publish to Adept to check that file back into Adept. It knows the library it's got to go into, the metadata to associate with it, and also whether to create a relationship between that PDF and the native file. So in the end of this process, if I searched on that document, say by file name, the native document, I would get 2 results, that document and the PDF that was created for it. kind of stole my own thunder here. Having the metadata populated in the PDF's data card allows for Adept users to search Adept and easily find the PDF document. One example that some of our customers use is they have the PDF in a library where the native document is not. Then via Adept Writes, users who search for that document only get the PDF and not the native file. This improves their ability, it simplifies it for them. It improves their ability to easily get to the document, view it and print it, and whatever else they need to do with that document, without having them see, oh, here's an IAM or an SLD assembly, and it's got children and all that stuff that the CAD users love, of course. But the PDF is a very simple rendition of a very complex file. This is our final use case. In this example, only P2A, which is part of PublishWave, it's not extra, it comes with PublishWave, is being used. Files outside of Adept are desired to be put into Adept. To accomplish this, Publish to Adept is configured to watch another folder, the folder here on the right side. There will be no related P2A file for this. We're just taking files and dropping them in this folder. And that's in the bottom right of the screen. Here, files through Windows Explorer, as an example, are just being dropped, copied, or cut and pasted into that folder. Now, P2A, Publish to Adept, is monitoring that folder on a time sequence. You set it up in 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Once the files are there and it hits that schedule to check, P2A sees it, sees the files there. It's configured to check those files into a particular library, and it just checks them right into Adept. Now, in that case, there's no metadata necessarily associated with those files, because that metadata would have come through with that P2A file. Here, those are the files that were checked in that manner. They become available for the appropriate Adept user. Here, the files were checked into a checked library, so they're on a review status, awaiting further action. Our customers have set up PublishWave in this way, and when these documents are checked in, the reviewer for these documents gets the email notification, so they know, hey, there's new documents coming in here. And then they look at the documents, they can reroute them, they can approve them, they can move them off to the proper location. This is an interesting way for non-Adept users to get their files into the Adept environment and into a workflow process. So as I get near the end here, just a few other notes about PublishWave. Today, PublishWave supports output from these native file formats. There's an option in the job request form to combine PDFs into one PDF. Some of our customers use that. This is good when sending PDFs to an outside vendor or contractor where they only want to have one PDF. They don't want 30 or 50 separate PDFs. So using PublishWave, you can just combine them all into one and send them that one multi-page PDF. Also, submission can be further controlled by library, by file name extension, and by metadata value. So I could set up PublishWave to only send this document to PublishWave. When I check it into Library A, it has a file name extension of .dwg and has a metadata value in the field drawn by of Joe. Otherwise, the document is not sent to PublishWave and it just gets checked in. Also, the output. The output can be directed to multiple folders from one job submission. This is useful when the output is to be used in several ways, such as one output folder gets checked back into Adept. This other output folder is used by SharePoint. And you can set up as many places where you want that PDF to go as you need. The interesting thing is all of these submissions through PublishWave and check back into Adept are all tracked in the Adept audit trail as well. So to finish up, question I always ask myself is, why do I care? What does it matter to me? And also, to finish up and let better presenters get up here on the stage, I want to go through a couple of scenarios here. If you are responsible for document distribution in your company, and PublishWave can help with that. If you are responsible to ensure that documents that are distributed are accurate and the latest version, PublishWave can help with that. If you have consumers of these documents that want a simple, easy format to work with, such as PDF or TIFF, PublishWave can help with that. You're about to hear how PublishWave, in conjunction with many other Adept-related components, are solving complex problems for one of our key and important Adept, no, we're all important, I'm sorry. All of our customers are important. One of the key customers, they're important because they live about a mile from my house and they know where I live, and I have to make sure they're happy. And so far, I think they are. So I'll call up Charlie and Steve, and they can take it from here. If you have any questions for me, we'll wait till the end, and maybe you'll forget about them by then, and we'll go forward. But I'm around. Certainly, you can ask me later. Thank you.